everyone, John Enter here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Daily Futures Market Outlook, where we take a look at our favorite markets and formulate an attack plan for tomorrow's trading. Tomorrow being the 15th of the month, and man, welcome back from the weekend. This is the kind of price action that I hope for. We finally get markets to move a little bit, well, a little bit, more than a little bit. We're getting some good movement all over the place, just overall a great day of opportunity today, and this is the kind of stuff that I love to see. Now, before we jump on into all the charts here, make sure to swing on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to let you sign your email up for our email list that you'll be notified every time one of these videos comes out. Along with the video itself, inside the newsletter, we talk about all kinds of different stuff from stocks, cryptocurrencies, futures, Forex, you name it, it's going to be inside there at some point. It's just a great newsletter to have coming into your inbox every day. Along with that, don't forget to click on the live Trader subscription and trial info. From here, you can actually sign up for a 3-day trial period in the room. You can sit down with us for a couple days and see what we're all about. You can see our screens, you can hang out with our members, you can just kind of get a feel for what we're doing every day and just kind of how everything works from day to day. Now, some days will be slow, some days will be better, like today. I'm hoping for better days, more like today, if I had a choice at all, if the market cared of what I thought. But overall, it's a great way to see what we're all about, and just a good way to see if it's a good fit for you. Now, of course, if you do enjoy it, you can always sign up for a weekly or monthly subscription, and if you join as a full-fledged VIP member, you get the live trade room as part of the package. Now, taking a look across the board here, the euro, for the most part, a little bit slow and range-bound, grinding down for the better part of the day. But in between these breakout moves, breakout move down, breakout move down, breakout move down, it got really choppy. Lots of back and forth inside there, and just a lot of mess, for lack of better words. Now, the downside still prevails for today. The euro definitely in a corrective phase. Now, this could just be a corrective pullback in a much larger bull trend up. That definitely could be the case. But overall, we're just looking for the market to want to come back up towards those monthly highs and retest that big 8,800 area and break out through what we had trouble with last time around. Now, in terms of overall movement, again, even though we are looking long on the bigger time frame, in the short term, we can't discount the amount of bearish pressure that's coming in. And right now, we may just be ending up cycling between an earlier range. We had a lot of support, and resistance, and expecting that to become resistance again. And now we have a new low coming in here that fits really well for a range, so we might just be stuck in this little range here. Overall, looking for the sell side in the short term and looking for the long term buy side makes a lot more sense. Right now, in the short term, I'm looking for possible selling off of 18,155 along with the top of the wedge. Also, 18,255 would be a retest of that spike down that we had, spike down into a channel or a wedge, or however you want to draw this up. Lots of different ways to draw it. That retest area between 18,255 and probably up towards 8,300 is likely going to be a pretty big area of interest. And then, of course, 18,350 on the way back up from that earlier level of support that broke down would be a nice retest. And then coming into the last line of defense at 18,450 before the buyers just fully take over if it starts breaking through that. So really what I think the best way to play it would be is to short-term sell, and if it goes back up, short-term sell, then buy, right? And then short-term sell and buy, and just kind of ping-pong it on the way up, knowing that the long-term is bullish and the short-term is bearish. Plenty of opportunities on both sides of the market for the euro, though. It is choppy enough to get away with probably taking both sides of trade. Over on gold, well, kind of the same thing as the euro, mostly a bear trend for the better part of the day, but making a failed attempt at a new low later on in the afternoon. Going on 2 o'clock, it failed to break down, and that earlier level of support, that's where we found that support level before. They broke down, they failed, came back, used it as support, and as long as this support zone between 6.4 and 5.8 holds, the sellers don't really have that good of an argument. So really, because that lines up with the previous low of day, massive amount of support underneath it, now a wedge low kind of grinding its way through there. Until we can break underneath that, although we are bearish on the day, I can't be a seller until we see some proof. So right now, looking to buy off of that 86.4 and 85.8 until we can start seeing some proof. And if that does fail to bounce and we break through, then we can shift gears into the sell mode and try to push the market back down to a new low. If we do get a little bit of a better correction, selling at around 1290.2, maybe a little bit higher up to 91, somewhere inside of there, that zone, if you will, likely going to be an area of resistance to continue the market to the downside. And if it does want to start breaking above that, then we can start looking to use that as support and continue on up. Again, looking at the overall trend is usually the most important thing, and this could very likely just be a deep pullback in an otherwise trappy low before a rocket ship right back up towards the highs. So we don't want to get too attached to the downside. We are seeing some signs that the sellers are running out of steam down here with a little head and shoulders and a failed retest. This could easily cycle its way back up. And knowing that in the short term, we also have a big zone right here and we can't really sell into it, I would much rather be on the buy side right now for the long term. And in the short term, maybe some selling pressure. Again, another market that we can probably get away with trading both sides of. Now, crude oil had a fantastic voyage today, completely failing off of the highs and driving to massive bear targets down at 47.58, taking care of a big cycle to the downside. And if we look at a little bit of a larger time frame here, let's go do a 30-minute time frame. That's a little bigger than 30 minutes. Let's try that again. 30-minute time frame. We're starting to dig into that earlier major level of support. Now, we were talking about this last week as well, where we broke above that swing high with a huge amount of aggression, and when they tried to pull back, they couldn't even retest it. So the fact that we're back in this area again, this is sort of the last line of defense for the buyers to try to push back up and towards those highs. They failed to make a new high. They trapped above that previous swing high, and they actually did that a couple times before right there. And now we're seeing it again, and a big drive lower. We could easily be seeing an ABCD type correction to the downside, and that may mean that we have a little bit more leg. But overall, this zone inside here, this is the last line of defense the buyers have. And if that starts breaking down, expect a more kind of gruesome breakdown, much more aggressive, pull back and use it as resistance. But until that is out of the way, even though today is massively bearish and it's very hard to want to do anything but selling in this type of environment, if we get some signs that the sell side may be over, this could easily find a rally up in the long term. In the short term, though, we are doing nothing but selling and looking for selling at better prices. All that basically means is that instead of selling at the lows, the aggression is probably coming to an end sooner than later, so we want to find some better prices to sell into. As early as an aggressive area of opportunity around 47.78, otherwise looking for them to retest weekly resistance in combination with 60-minute resistance right at 48 to cycle off of. Whether we're going to get a correction that big in the overnight session, if we're lucky, we might. Otherwise, we might have to just deal with the aggressive entry at around 78 and try to push the market back down to new lows. I think we're likely more going to go into a transitional range period just due to the fact that we have a lot of downside momentum, but we are also hitting big time support coming in towards that earlier swing high we were talking about. So in the long term, we may be shifting gears to the buy side, but I mean, looking at this move down, there is no way I want to be a buyer yet. We just need to keep it in the back of our heads. And then finally, wrapping up on the S&P. The S&P overall, really just kind of an explosively bullish day. We had a beautiful bull breakout, went into a sturdy range for several hours, and then just off to the races. This thing went ripping higher. We had a beautiful little snap pullback, probably a trap. 24.6150 is going to be an area of support. Now we do have a little bit of a range being put in between 65 and 3/4 down to about 62, 63 and a half or so in that area before we start finding a little bit of a, maybe a potentially wider range inside here down to that 61.5. With a big area of support, 61.5, looking to cycle off of it and push back up to new highs. Then the major objective for the S&P, we have an open objective up here at 68 and 3/4 for the buyers to finish off, and they'll likely do that in the overnight session. So I am looking to buy into this and hold in probably overnight. If we can get a better pullback, that would be even nicer. But overall, looking to buy into any dips that we get on the S&P and looking to rally back up to finish that objective off early in the morning, maybe in the afternoon today or early tomorrow morning going into the US session. We'll have to wait and see. But at this point in time, any pullback, just like crude oil is heavily bearish, the S&P is heavily bullish, and any pullback is likely just going to get snapped right back up again with buyers viewing it as cheap. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Now, in terms of overall news for tomorrow, today we had pretty much none. Tomorrow, at 2 o'clock in the morning, out of the Euro, Germany specifically, we have the GDP quarter over quarter for quarter 2, forecasted at 0.7%. The previous was 0.6%. At 4:30 tomorrow morning out of the UK, we have the CPI year over year for July forecasted at 2.7%, slightly above the previous 2.6%. At 8:30 tomorrow morning in the U.S. session, we do have a couple bigger U.S. news announcements. The core retail sales month over month for July forecasted at 0.3% versus the previous of a negative 0.2%. We also have the retail sales month over month for July forecasted at 0.4% versus the previous of, once again, negative 0.2%. So we do have some news going on tomorrow. Fingers crossed that keeps things going. But man, if we can get another day like today in terms of movement, I will be a very happy trader. I love these kinds of days where we can get some things actually going instead of just sitting there staring at your screen for 6 hours hoping something happens, right? Only to shut down your charts, and of course that's when everything goes crazy. So fingers crossed we get this kind of volatility tomorrow. But that's going to do it for this one. So like we always say, make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules. You'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.